Hi everyone, and thank you for joining this panel. My name's Adiron and I'm the Cloud Application and Innovation Lead for Middle East and Africa. I've been incredibly fortunate to follow the journey of the developer cloud in the region and see how software engineers embrace that correlation of Visual Studio, GitHub, and Microsoft Azure to drive those incredible integrations and innovative cloud applications coming from those tools. In this panel, I'll discuss some of the key learnings and best practices of this developer cloud approach coming from the Middle East and Africa developers. We worked with so many customers, partners, and large-scale communities to drive app innovation in the region, and today we'll have an open discussion on insights, challenges, and practices with representatives from South Africa, Israel, and the UAE region. So before we start with this panel, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the developer cloud approach in Middle East and Africa. The developer cloud is actually a combination of services coming from Visual Studio, GitHub, and Microsoft Azure to truly support this end-to-end journey of the modern and cloud-native software development experience. As we face many different apps in the region, from startups driving those next-gen innovation ideas into large enterprises supporting their legacy software, developers in this region are actually seeking ways to embrace cloud native, not as a technology, but as a full cycle. It's not just about having microservices or containers running on Azure. That's not enough to becoming fully cloud native. It's really about necessary changes, integrations, and capabilities that really transform the entire process. From how we code and the way that we move to working from home, to ways to securely collaborate with other dev teams and infuse that right types of DevOps practices, and finally looking at automation processes, extending GitHub and visual resources to Azure. When we think about cloud native in this code, collaborate, and ship automated process, it's easier for us to really understand how to transform our application models and leverage this developer cloud toolchain. This allows us to embrace those quick release cycles and further support remote development as they come into the region. Now, why those tools? It's actually not about Microsoft, even if we're now at Ignite. It's really about the best and most used tools in Middle East and Africa. Visual Studio Code is the most popular dev tool in the region, with over 50% of the developers already using it. It's a natural start for the developer cloud journey, as it's consistent across frameworks and technologies, startups, and enterprise customers in our region. Continuing with GitHub, GitHub is actually the de facto collaboration tool in MEA, and it was, by the way, like this for many years, even before Microsoft acquired it. People across various countries in this part of the world have been using this tool to remote collaborate and develop some of the largest open source projects for years now. Today, those are exactly the learnings that we all need to embrace to really understand how to build remote teamwork and inner sourcing in every single company across the world. Lastly, Azure. Now, I may be biased, but Azure is truly leading our innovation story in MEA with a great coverage in the region of the 4 existing and planned data centers, all of the local certifications that we need to drive those applications, and leadership in all of the major cloud development platforms, according to the latest Forrester research. So looking at all of this together, we are seeing that developer cloud approach really taking over. Instead of talking about tools, we are embracing a journey for cloud application and innovation in this region. We start with integrating the dev tools like VSCode and GitHub to support automation and DevOps practices. The middle piece is about the cloud native platform, which is enterprise ready and fully hybrid. We can see investments around security with Azure Security Center, the great offerings for .NET and Java from App Service and Spring Cloud, and our hero Kubernetes offering of AKS. All of this is fully hybrid and multi-cloud with the support of Azure Arc. The last piece is around the amazing work that we've been doing with the open source communities over the years with projects like Dapper, Kada, Brigade, and Draft. Efforts that are not just embracing cloud native and Kubernetes, but actually build the future of it with the power and experience of developers in the region and across the world. And with that, I'm extremely excited to add our panelists into the call. Okay, so let's start with a lightning round of introductions for everyone. Please include your name, role, country, and favorite pet.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Batel Zor, and I'm a developer advocate at JFrog, and I love dogs. As you saw in the presentation, I have an amazing doggy.
Hi, my name is Quentin de Kock. I'm from South Africa. I work for Tangent Solutions. I'm Cloud Solutions Architect there. And my favorite pet is probably also a dog. My one dog.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. So my name is Hatem Nagarwala, and I work as a technology lead at AppsWay. My favorite pet is a rabbit. So, yeah.
Well, mine is a koala, so I guess I'm the most interesting one of all of you dog lovers. Great meeting all of you. So let's start with the developer cloud. As we shared at the beginning of this session, much of the interest we've seen in Middle East and Africa and throughout Ignite actually is around the integration of GitHub and Azure, especially this year when everybody works remotely. So collaboration is a bit harder than what we used to see. So any insights or best practices that you can mention here that could help developers that are just now starting to embrace that GitHub and Azure integration? Batel, you've worked on this topic. What are your thoughts?
So I think that the best tip will be just to try it. You have so many examples. You can just easily click on it and see how it's working. So try to play with it. Try to investigate it and see different packages, different management. Just try it. It's an amazing tool.
So I'll so for me, GitHub Actions and just any DevOps, right? Any automation just drives productivity, and productivity is something that we in South Africa are, have to focus on because we have a skill shortage, right? So you have to have that accelerated deployment and accelerated delivery that you get through something like GitHub Actions and automation. That is, I mean, it is an amazing technology.
For me, actually, to add this point over here, it helps you to automate so many things and save a lot of time in that case. So kind of your PRs, you can actually build on GitHub. And the main part is the integration. So integrating it with your existing infrastructure and also to Azure. So that helps me to actually save so much time in that case and use GitHub Actions almost every day in my life.
So it seems like we're all looking at GitHub Actions as like a natural extension from GitHub to Azure, which is super interesting right now. Any other sort of integration points that you're seeing between these two, or maybe with Visual Studio Code as well, that you think are worth mentioning to our audience?
So it can easily respond to any GitHub event. So whenever I'm working with VSCode, I can do that super easily. Everything is fully integrated. So it's amazing tool from my opinion in that case, because whenever I'm working, I can just do it super quickly. Everything is in one place. I love the idea that it's kind of a platform.
Yeah, I think automation, again, I'm going to always say that automation is key, right? So if you're going to have success, you have to have some form of automation for your deployments. And people often ask me, or say that DevOps is a culture, and I'm like, nah, you know what? Automation breeds success, and success, but people follow success, and culture follows success. So, in my opinion, GitHub Actions gives you that ability. VSCode integration with Git and GitHub Actions is just makes them so much simpler to get that pipeline going.
Great. So if I'm taking all of what you shared here, and there's a lot to unpack, I think GitHub Actions is definitely the glue between GitHub and Azure. And looking at the correlation between Visual Studio, GitHub, and Azure kind of provides that automation, that backbone that we all want to carry, especially now through COVID. I love what Quentin kind of mentioned, that DevOps, I don't like, methodologies as well. Give me tools, give me automation. I don't like slides and people telling you how to work. So definitely, if you confide me into this process and not just tell me about it, that is something that I find extremely valuable. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Totally.
100%.
Good. All right. So another area that was popular in our region is definitely about cloud native and Kubernetes. As this becomes the mainstream approach of how we build application, it's really interesting to cover, the views on where this is going and, what's the future of this platform. I've seen many applications taking that approach of serverless Kubernetes, and we've seen some great learnings from Dapper, our open source project that kind of aims to make it easy for every developer to build microservices. So Quentin, what is your view here? Where are we taking this to the next level? What would be a future that we can all see as our North Star for cloud native and Kubernetes?
So I was just having a conversation with another one of my colleagues, and we were talking about how he was saying like he doesn't want to go into the cloud because he's afraid of infrastructure. And I was like, infrastructure? What is that? Right? So, I mean, serverless is the future. Kubernetes serverless, app services in Azure, all of those are serverless platforms as service technologies, and you don't need to worry about that infrastructure anymore. I think the future for Kubernetes is serverless, right? We're not going to have these nodes. I was dumbfounded the other day when a customer told me they wanted to run a script on my Kubernetes nodes. And I was like, why do you want to access my nodes? That doesn't matter to us anymore. So, the whole thing about serverless is the future.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing from you is definitely we all want to be in that serverless Kubernetes world, but we're still kind of stuck in some places in the legacy mode. And that's interesting. I think we all see this throughout the region. Everybody's going to meetups talking about how cool Kubernetes is, and then go back and they see like the 20-year-old Java application and say, what the hell? What did I just see? And where? I mean, back from the future back to the 80s. So what would be a good approach, do you think, there? Quentin, let's start with you in really landing that dream into a reality for legacy software.
So I think there are a lot of approaches, right? I mean, Dapper is one of them. The idea of interfaces, right? So I come from a development object-oriented world. So we always spoke about interfaces and concrete implementations. So Dapper gives you that ability to just do the interface, right? And then you have the concrete implementation of your choice. So if I want to do PubSub, I use an interface for PubSub, but the backend can be Redis, it can be Kafka, it could be anything. And that type of interfacing is something that you can also do in Kubernetes using sidecar type patterns and ambassador patterns. So I had a situation today where a guy was saying he wants to use HTTPS in his microservice, and I said to him, look, actually you can outsource that now, right? So any of the service meshes can do mutual TLS, and that's the kind of that's the kind of world we're moving to. So I think, yes, there is this legacy, but there are these interfacing solutions that can solve those problems.
So in Israel, Kubernetes is also super popular, and everyone talking about it, as you know, around here. So in most of the cases, we will find a solution. We'll find a workaround for a specific application that we would like to run. We'll make it happen somehow. I really believe that in 1 year, almost everything will run in Kubernetes. We won't see any old way to wrap our applications and some old setups and stuff like that. Everything will move to Kubernetes.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, if that happens, that would be a great compensation of 2021. In 2020, see everything becoming cloud native in 2022. So Hatim,
2022, yes.
Yeah.
Correct. We are looking forward for that year now.
Totally. I really hope it will happen.
Yes.
The cloud native year, from COVID to cloud native, I think that's a good move for all of us. So Hatim, let's talk about some of the legacy application in UAE, mainly .NET and Java. I think as we just discussed now, it seems like the path to move them to the cloud future has been a struggle for all of us. I personally experienced projects, with you, that everybody got super excited. Let's move it to the cloud, and then you can see it slowly changing to an all right, let's just keep it a VM and be done with it approach.
Yes.
So you work often with .NET applications. Any insights on how we can move them to the cloud without completely rebuilding them?
So there are a few services on Azure, and I have been also suggesting them to my customers, like who I deal with on a daily basis. So the first challenge out here with .NET applications is, yes, you can do a lift and shift out there. And the best service what I see right now is Azure App Services. Okay. You have a very good compatibility out there where you can actually go ahead and take your legacy .NET applications and then put it directly to app services. And while you're doing that, you might face some issues, but with the proper planning and instead of just throwing it up on a VM, this is the first good step. Go ahead, go back, publish it to Azure App Services, And when you have few roadblocks or few challenges, that can be worked around and that can be upgraded while you are actually moving your application. And to talk about the current region here, the first main issue is about security and about the data, where the data resides. And it's good that we have like recently launched the Azure App Services and Platform as a Services out here in UAE. And this gives them an opportunity to actually go ahead, migrate this, and dealing with dependencies and the smaller stuffs are there, which can be taken care of. But mainly moving to Platform as a Service, there are a lot of benefits out there. I will give you one of the examples. I had one OTT company. I can't take the name here, but that OTT company went from their on-prem IaaS application to Azure App Services. And the best part was they saved almost 90% of the cost. Wow. With moving directly from a VM to an Azure App Services, with scaling, flexibility, and they know their customers when they used to stream and all these things. So it's a good starting step for the customers like this to actually go on cloud, use the Platform as a Services as their base, and not just go to a VM and migrate the whole solution out there, and still get all the benefits of the cloud. Yes, they have improvements. They have the performance and stuff can be improved over time, but this is a good starting point where they can actually go ahead and follow this approach.
So I like this approach. I think if I'm hearing, PaaS is definitely an option for us for lift and shift. However, we do need to do more planning and automation for this to not be a complete nightmare. I agree with you. I see that the technology is making strides. App service, Windows containers, those things are, even Spring Cloud for Java, those are trying to embrace more and more things that could be easily digestible. Planning here is key, and definitely GitHub, I think, is the star of our discussion. I don't know if you can see on my shirt, I'm, kind of geek up with GitHub. So definitely that's the right approach.
I want one of those, please.
Yeah. Atim, you mentioned one topic that is actually really hot now with many large scale attack exploiting the way, that we build code and deploy it into production, is actually security. So we all learn to say we invest in Devsecops, but are we actually doing this in the area? But what would be your first step recommendation to ignite developers listening to us right now that want to embrace Devsecops as a practice?
So first of all, I really believe that we need to understand that Devsecops is a culture change. We need to make sure that we're deliver code in very, very small commits, and we want to make sure that we can automate everything so we can easily secure them in the future. And I want to make sure that I can check my vulnerabilities and make sure that I'm also enabling the code analysis and everything that it can have in my Azure platform. So I think that we really need to understand this is a culture change. We need to do that from the beginning till the end, till the release.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm hearing here a lot of tools and culture changes and sort of maybe choosing the right areas of investment, and definitely GitHub Actions is also a start here. But in your mind, and let's just name one tool, one practice that you think is key in what you're looking at Devsecops to make it really tangible. What do you think? Just one thing, if you had to choose, someone is doing nothing and he just needs to implement one thing, what would be that thing?
So I really believe that we should use Package Manager to make sure that we can track our binaries, our dependencies. We want to make sure that we can log them in case that we found any vulnerabilities. So we'll be able to track everything that we have in our build.
Definitely tracking. Hatim, what about you? What would you say would be a one practice that you would recommend for security?
I would say that dividing into smaller chunks and keeping a track of that is what I would prefer more in that case.
Quentin,
I think if you're doing something, if you're not going to do anything, at least do some sort of scanning on your code, right? Even if it's quality control, just make sure that you're not putting secrets in your source code, that kind of thing. You want to, that's a big part of DevSecOps.
Amazing.
It's just making sure secret management is done properly.
I think that now that's
Correct.
even automated in GitHub, right? Now, whenever we upload any secret or something, we're getting kind of an alert.
Yeah.
Just use the tool. So if I'm taking the Mia sort of, one-shot advice for you is one package, smaller chunks, and scan. So this is your Mia sort of practice, collaborative practice. So all of you do those things, and that's a good starting point to really embrace or start that journey. All right, so moving to another buzzword in the developer communities for Middle East and Africa, AI-based apps. I know many of us think like, hey, that's the data scientist problem. I have enough of my developer plate already, but this is becoming increasingly easy to integrate. I mean, we're seeing cognitive services and a lot of APIs, the search API, bot API, even some zero code capabilities with AI Builder in this domain. So Quentin, you're a lifer in the developer world and you saw many trends come and go. What do you think? Is it something that we should explore as developers?
So in my opinion, I've been, like you said, a lifer, 22 years in the game. In my opinion, we should be actually consuming APIs for artificial intelligence or machine learning. Rather let the clever guys, the university guys, build these models that we can consume. Looking at speech, image recognition, all of the big companies or the big open AIs of the world are building these models. And we as developers shouldn't be focused on becoming data scientists. Like I said, I learned R 3 years ago so that I could be a data scientist because I thought it was going to be cool. But actually, it's really hard. And you can, with Azure Cognitive Services, you can start to consume these models as you feel fit. And also one other thing that I wanted to just add to that is cognitive search is actually, in my opinion, one of the best tools you have because people have learned to interact with their computers using search. And cognitive search gives you that ability in your app. So you can actually start to, use search as an interaction mechanism.
I love this approach, assuming not generating AI. So Hatim, what do you think? Is this something that you also practice?
Yes, actually, I'll give you one of the scenarios. It's a part cloud still. Back then when it was bot framework version 3, we developed an on-prem bot and we still wanted to continue that on-prem bot today, but add Azure Cognitive Search on top of it. So, we still managed to do that somehow, still the support is off, but still we could manage to do that and plug into the Azure Cognitive Search over there. And in one of the other solutions, I helped one of the customers to use knowledge mining in that case. Few of the cognitive services, and you also have an option to actually containerize it and then put it on-prem. So use the same power of so still you're not going to cloud, but you are utilizing that that power of Azure Cognitive Search and knowledge mining.
Yeah, and then we go to Batel's dream of cloud native everything.
Totally, it's my dream here.
Yeah, still using a lot of APIs. So Batel, what do you think? I mean, do you think this is a way for us to infuse rapid innovation, and maybe, be on the consuming side of AI, or do you think we need to maybe stride into building AI models ourselves?
All right, so I think that even as DevOps engineers, we can easily combine in an AI too. So it's not only for developers, even the DevOps team can use it and create kind of an application to reduce security review with some AI application, and they can use kind of a managing for cyber security expertise and stuff like that. And it actually should be for everyone. We need to contribute to AI and try to help. And we have nice tools in Azure that we can easily use them.
I love it.
Exactly. And that's the amazing part. Whenever you have a platform that having all of these services and we can use all of them together and play as a team, everyone can work on it. Everyone can take place. It's amazing that it's everything in one place.
Correct.
I love it. I love it. So we're actually saying really that those are features that we're trying to look at from the end to end. Also from the DevOps practices and how we operate and maybe make it smarter, connecting to our DevOps and Devsecops sort of discussion earlier, but also on the capabilities on the applications themselves. And I love what Hatim, you mentioned that we can actually use it right now. We don't have to migrate to Azure to do cloud native, to start embracing what cloud can bring us. And I think that's a really interesting call to action for us, especially on the services, Quentin, you mentioned, like, cognitive search, which is easily consumable even if you're on-prem. Good, good. So before we close, I want to do a quick survey. What is your current preferred IDE?
VSCode, totally VSCode. I love the idea that we can easily just add new user plugins, new integration, and everything. It's so easy. Just provide me the information. If I want to add anything, it's read my application. I love it.
Yeah, I second that. Yeah, I think VS Code is it's magic because it comes in dark mode from installation. Right?
For me, same. No questions asked. It's VS Code.
Oh.
And the best part I like about VS Code is you're not restricted to a single platform or a single language. You can do everything, and you have an integrated terminal, so you don't have to step out of your IDE to do something else. Just go ahead and you can start your containers. You can connect to your Azure account. That's another the best part. I used to manage my Azure functions in that case, my workloads. So everything actually into a single IDE. You can't ask anything more than this.
God, I hate to use this old pun, but it looks like you're old sold on VS Code.
Yes,
that's horrible. I know. So maybe Hatim, take me. I mean, you talked a little bit about the .NET side, and now you're taking about different options and platforms. What would be like one of the reasons behind telling developers that haven't experienced or tried VS Code to download it and use it? What would be like your one reason for this?
The first thing is there is nothing you have to learn about it. It's so intuitive. It's so simple and straightforward. Is like people, I saw a few of the people who are just using Notepad++, but it is easier than Notepad++ and a better user interface, right? And integration wise, you name it and you have the plugins. Like you can do Python, you just name it. And the best part is you have a search option, you download that extension and you start using it. And I think so if I want to connect back to our story, we have code spaces now. So, the same VS Code is available on web for you through GitHub. And you are using an iPad. Like if you're on a go, you're using an iPad or you're using any remote device as an ARM device, you just go ahead, go to the browser and you can still code what you were doing it on your VS Code. So it's for anyone who is starting with it, there is nothing to learn about it. Just download it, and the same time you actually start working on it.
Love it, love it.
It's that good.
Good.
Yeah, I think just I didn't know there were developers that haven't downloaded it.
Well, if you're one of the few that are watching now and haven't downloaded it yet, Quentin is super mad, so go do that.
Yeah, just go and download it.
Yeah, that's I'm sold on the intuitive pitch from Hatim, so definitely I'll do that. And I think that's the secret sauce of our cloud native future by Batel. So that kind of puts everything together. Team, I want to thank you for joining us today in Ignite. I think we brought a lot of different learnings and best practices today from Microsoft, from partners, from dev community leaders across Israel, South Africa, UAE, and the entire Middle East and Africa area. That was interesting, really, to have that conversation with you. And if this is interesting for our audience to learn more, please check out our recent event covering all of this and much more in depth, aka.ms Dev Cloud Summit MIA. You can see it now below. I wish you all a great rest of Ignite, and we'll be staying on to get your questions and feedbacks. So thank you and have a great day.